Because this one up here.
Sneaky thieves caught on camera what this car salesman says they made off with just ahead. Plus, getting in the way. That's what one group says Albuquerque's mayor is doing. The reason behind the accusations coming up. And tornado touchdowns in the Midwest. How bad it was for some folks. This morning, the cleanup begins. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to KRQE News 13 this morning. I'm Krista Gutierrez. Today is Tuesday, June 23rd. We'll get to those stories in just a bit. But first, how about a check on the forecast where you live? Here's Kristen Curry.
Thank you, Krista. I want to start off with a look at that radar. Not much to talk about here in the metro area, but we're still keeping eyes on a few of these pockets of light rain out across the southwest corner of the state and really west central New Mexico as well. This is not very heavy, not much to be concerned about, but you may be hit with a few raindrops on the windshield as you're on your way into work this morning. When it comes to the forecast, we're pretty mild out there now in the 60s and 70s. Later this afternoon, we're talking mid to upper 90s, not the triple digits that we got stuck with over the past 2 days. We're starting to cool things off across the land of enchantment. By tomorrow, we're stuck in the low 90s, so an even bigger cool off towards midweek. But rain chances starting to juice up a bit, isolated today and tomorrow, and then they look better and better heading into this weekend. So I'll break down that full forecast, show you what we have in the 7-day coming up here in about 10 minutes.
And we start with news happening now. Officials in the Midwest are sifting through a lot of storm damage. High winds uprooted trees there, rivers overflowed, causing this. Look at these flooded streets. So far, officials are confirming at least 5 people were hurt in Lee County, Illinois. They're all expected to be okay. That's the good news here. Further east, though, the National Weather Service is confirming a tornado touchdown in Coal City that's just south of Chicago. 2 people were hurt there. Then near Lansing, Michigan, yesterday 5 people had to be rescued after a tornado ripped through this building.
And our walls just started shaking and pictures falling off, and before we knew it, it just lifted up the roof and was gone.
So this morning, the National Weather Service is still working to confirm if 2 more tornadoes actually touched down in Michigan. We turn now to this. A man appointed last year to an important role with the city has not been able to serve in the position yet. Now the courts could get involved. Zane Reeves was voted on by city employees to serve on the city's personnel board last year. The mayor has not signed off on him, and it's been more than a year. The union representing city workers is asking a court to step in. The personnel board makes big decisions when it comes to disciplining employees. Reeves has a controversial past with the city. He was fired in 2012 from his role as hearing officer. The city claimed Reeves was biased when he ruled for APD officer Russell Perea to get his job back. Perea was accused of lying for his partner Levi Chavez the night that Chavez's wife was killed.
It was important for us to make sure on behalf of the taxpayers and the money that this particular decision maker did cause the city, we dotted our I's and crossed our T's.
The mayor's office now says it will move forward with Reeves' appointment on the personnel board within the next 7 to 10 days. We turn now to this. A murder suspect was caught coming back to the U.S. across the Mexican border. 31-year-old Matthew Cifuentes was caught while walking across the bridge from Juarez to El Paso this weekend. He's charged with the murder of 25-year-old Daniel Herrera. He was missing since late May, then later found off a Clovis highway. Investigators say Herrera was shot, but they have not released a motive in this case. The Bush and Clinton presidential families are now speaking out about the death of the missing hiker in New Mexico. He was former White House chef Walter Scheib. His body was found Sunday night not far from a hiking trail near Taos Ski Valley. He was reported missing by his girlfriend more than a week and a half ago. Scheib was a White House chef for 11 years under both presidents, Bill Clinton and George W. Bush. Turn out to a developing story out of New York this morning. Authorities believe they're getting closer to catching the 2 escaped killers. Law enforcement teams have found DNA matching that of Richard Matt and David Sweat inside a burglarized cabin. Authorities say it's the best lead they've gotten since the men escaped more than 2 weeks ago.
It's a confirmed lead for us. It has generated a massive law enforcement response, as you can see, and we're going to run this to ground.
So the new search area is not far from the Clinton Correctional Facility where the men escaped from. Law enforcement are now using ATVs, cruisers, and helicopters to sweep that area. A law enforcement source says the cabin break-in shows Matt and Sweat are, quote, desperate. Workers could soon have more rights in Albuquerque following a new bill introduced by City Council. Among the new rules, it would require employers to make schedules 21 days in advance. If they change a shift on short notice, workers would get a minimum of 4 hours pay. Critics say it would hurt businesses, though.
Businesses have unique business models, things that work for them in various industries. So it's difficult when requirements are made that may work better in one industry, may not work as well for all industries.
So if the bill gets passed by the committee, it would head to the full City Council come August. So we're talking about this morning. In the top 10, Albuquerque was recently named one of the 9 best up-and-coming towns for college grads. Great news, right? But that's not what caught our eye. It's this sign right here. News 13's Catherine Mazzone is in the Newsplex with details on this. Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning, Crystal. Now, job recruitment website ZipRecruiter chose these top 9 towns based on strong growth for hiring and a pretty affordable housing cost, right? So it makes a case for settling down in a relatively small town rather than going to a big city like, say, San Francisco or New York. And it names Albuquerque as the number 8 spot. Here's why. Things to do. Compared to a big city, there aren't as many opportunities, sure, but when you think about it, Albuquerque has quite a few, from arts, music, and film festivals to hiking and biking. That's not to mention our rich culture. Factor in a growing technology hub and low cost of rent, and it's no surprise we made the list. But take a look at this, the photo meant to showcase all we have to offer. We did a little digging and found this welcome sign is actually what greets New Mexico visitors more than 200 miles from our largest city, in Las Cruces. Compared to the other stunning skylines, we weren't the only ones to take notice. One person wrote in the comments section, "If I was from Albuquerque, I think I'd be upset. Surely CBS could have found a better photo." In fact, Boise, Idaho's photo boasts exactly what we're known for. In fact, it's the top photographed event in the world, Balloon Fiesta, and there's a hot air balloon. Now, it's important to mention that these are all stock photos, and there are others featured that don't have skylines, like Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and Lincoln, Nebraska. Back to you, Crystal.
All right, thanks, Catherine. Very interesting. So we took the article to UNM to get a take from locals. We'll tell you what they had to say coming up in our next half hour. We turn now to a developing story. New England quarterback Tom Brady will appeal his 4-game suspension today in the wake of Deflategate. The NFL penalized Brady back in May and fined his team $1 million after finding footballs were deflated during the AFC Championship game. League Commissioner Roger Goodell will preside over the hearing that's scheduled for later today. A small plane registered to Oscar-winning composer James Horner has crashed, killing the pilot there. Investigators say it's not clear if Horner was the one flying the plane, but sources are saying Horner did die in that crash. It happened Monday morning near Santa Barbara, California. Horner won 2 Academy Awards for the movie Titanic. He has been nominated 10 times. He scored numerous blockbuster films like Braveheart, Avatar, and Field of Dreams. A used car dealer in Indiana is fired up this morning, wanting to catch the thieves who stole thousands of dollars of equipment from his lot early Sunday morning. You can see the thieves here on surveillance video. 2 men roaming the lot, breaking into the back windows of trucks, then popping the hood to pop out the battery. The owner says the thieves took the batteries from 8 vehicles, even using bolt cutters there. He estimates the loss at least $10,000. That's a lot of money. Pricey prank video posted online that has a group of boaters being investigated for animal cruelty this morning. Plus, comment controversy, what the president said that has a lot of people talking. And for the first time since being appointed, we hear from the man in charge of overseeing big changes at APG. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to KRQE News 13 this morning. I'm Krista Gutierrez. It is Tuesday, June 23rd. We'll get at those stories in just a bit, but first, how about a check on that forecast? If you're ready for a break in the scorching temps, Kristen Curry has just the thing for you.
Yes, that's right. You're going to like the forecast. For those of you who are done with the triple digits, we're going to take a break from that 100-degree mark and start to cool things down here in the land of enchantment. We'll take a live look outside. Good morning, cloud crop to clear blue sky. Out on top of you guys, that's all we have to talk about now. Current temperatures show 66 in the Roswell area, but we're still sitting pretty comfortably in the low 70s. Here in Albuquerque, you'll find more 40s and 50s further up to the north near that Colorado-New Mexico state line. But when it comes to the afternoon numbers, everybody is starting to cool off. The storm chances are ramping up. Starting today, we'll bring back the isolated storms today, tomorrow, and even into Thursday. But it is looking like things are going to be pretty active this weekend with better rain chances for a good portion of the state. So yes, relief is on the way, both in the way of cooler temperatures and rain chances. I'll get into more details on that coming up here in about 10 minutes.
All right, thanks, Kristen. So we start with news happening today. The man in charge of overseeing reforms within APD will make his first full visit to Albuquerque. The court-appointed federal monitor James Ginger is scheduled to hold a press conference around 10 this morning. There, along with other city officials, Ginger will introduce his monitoring team to the community. Now, just last month, the city council voted to hire Ginger to a 4-year, $4.5 million contract as the federal monitor. This follows the Department of Justice report that blasted APD's use of force. And last night, the city approved to give Scott Greenwood, the attorney negotiating police reforms with the feds, more money, approving another $530,000, bringing the total contract cost to $750,000. Greenwood's spending was questioned after News 13 first exposed that he spent part of his pay on fancy hotels and booze. Most of the money approved is for work Greenwood has already done. Also new this morning, the special prosecutor in charge of the officer-involved shooting that threw APD back into the spotlight before that scathing DOJ report wants a judge to sign off on new murder charges for 2 APD officers. Special prosecutor Randy McGinn has filed second-degree murder charges against APD officer Dominique Perez and retired officer Keith Sandy. They were initially charged with first degree by DA Carrie Brandenburg, who was thrown off the case for conflict of interest. Last year, the 2 officers shot and killed homeless camper James Boyd in the foothills. Former prosecutor and state lawmaker Mo Maestas agrees with the new charges.
There is that intent to kill. It's not the premeditation involved in a first degree, but there is the intent to kill, even if it's momentarily.
In August, a judge will decide if there is enough evidence for the case to finally move forward. To see full documents on Perez and Sandy and past stories, check it out on our KRQE News app. We turn now to new news this morning. The city says you should vote on whether the council has a say in hiring and firing of the police and fire chiefs. The measure passed 8-1 last night, enough to override a mayor's veto. Not everyone thinks it's a good idea, though. An out-of-state candidate, for example, could give up everything with only the hope of being confirmed. The question was supposed to go on the November ballot last year, but it was too full. It will be put on the city ballot later this year. Developing news right now out of South Carolina, Governor Nikki Haley is putting pressure on lawmakers there to move quickly on legislation which would remove the Confederate flag from the state house grounds. In remarks Monday, the governor says she's prepared to call a special session if the debate does not take place this summer. Following the appeal, many Republicans with presidential aspirations rushed to back the governor. This comes after the Charleston church massacre, where police say a racist gunman killed 9 black churchgoers. Happening now, though, Walmart says it will stop selling merchandise bearing the image of the Confederate battle flag. The company says it will remove it from their stores and its website. We turn now to a live look over our nation's capital this morning, where President Barack Obama says he has no regrets using the N-word during a radio podcast. Take a listen.
Racism, we are not cured of. And it's not just a matter of it not being polite to say in public. That's not the measure of whether racism still exists or not. It's not just a matter of overt discrimination. Societies don't overnight completely erase everything that happened 200 to 300 years prior.
And we chose to omit the N-word from that interview. The radio interview caused quite the media firestorm, as you can imagine. The White House, though, it says it was never the president's intent to use that word. Meanwhile, President Obama will head to Charleston, South Carolina on Friday to deliver the eulogy at funeral services for Reverend Clementa Pinckney. He was one of those killed in the church massacre. Could a big change in a citywide landscaping rules help bring more shade to Albuquerque? That's what city planners are hoping for. They're proposing new rules that would target apartment complexes, retail shops, and even office buildings. It would allow them to count tree canopy toward their percentage of required city landscaping. The city says it means developers plant less ground cover and add more trees.
We could even see recreation of the 10% of tree canopy that we've lost over the past decade, plus the addition of more tree canopy that we don't have now.
So last year, Albuquerque was ranked as one of the hottest urban areas due to lots of concrete and not a whole lot of tree canopy here. If the city does pass it, the new rules could go into effect by the end of the year. We're talking about a big honor today, kind of. Albuquerque is chosen as one of the 9 best up-and-coming towns for college grads. But take a look at this photo. It's meant to showcase all we have to offer. Some are asking, where's the appeal? News 13's Catherine Mazzone took the article to UNM to get reaction. She joins us live with more. Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning, Crystal. It's definitely something to be proud of, and students agree. Many we spoke to say they plan on staying here after they finish school. But take a look at this photo. When I asked whether it spoke to what they love most about Albuquerque, this is what they had to say.
A little bit.
They're all like little cityscapes, and ours is of a sign.
And it looks like it's in the middle of nowhere.
All the photos featured in the article are stock photos, but after a little digging, we found the one for Albuquerque was actually taken in Las Cruces. At first glance, students and alumni we spoke to didn't seem too surprised by the photo. That is, until they saw some of the others featured on the site. Most said they should have picked a different one, but one person actually said he understands why they picked the welcome sign. After all, he says some people don't even know New Mexico is part of the United States and adds, we are pretty remote.
That's part of what we are, though. You know, even though we're a much bigger town than when I was a kid. It's not a bad picture. It says welcome, right?
There's always a silver lining, right? Now, while students were by no means upset over this photo, they did say they would have liked to see a photo of downtown instead. Back to you.
Or maybe over the Sandias. Thanks so much, Catherine. Now, the article compiled the list based on things to do here. Also, hiring growth and low cost of living. To take a look for yourself, we posted the article on our KRQE News app. We turn now to some developing news right now. U.S. officials say the recent hack on a government website may be bigger than what was previously thought. U.S. officials say 18 million people were impacted by the cyber breach, more than 4 times the number that has been publicly acknowledged. The FBI director added that the number of people affected could actually grow. Investigators suspect the Chinese government is behind this breach, which they describe as the worst ever against the U.S. government. Okay, new video this morning. Bottled water distributor Niagara has issued a voluntary recall over E. coli concerns. Recalled bottles have the product code shown here with expiration dates of December 2016. There are no indications any water is contaminated. No one has gotten sick yet. Niagara says it does routinely test its water to ensure safety. Okay, take a look at this. It shows a group of boaters trying to ride a moose, but what they thought was a funny joke could bring some very serious consequences. In it, you see one of the men jump on the back of the moose. It's believed to be at a lake in northern Canada. Shortly after it hit social media, someone alerted conservation officers who are now taking this matter extremely seriously. The men responsible could actually face fines of up to $100,000 for animal cruelty.